Welcome to Heal Dish, the space where healing gets real and you don't have to have it all together to grow. Each week we explore the nervous system, emotional resilience, and the journey from surviving to thriving. You're not broken, you're healing, and you don't have to do it alone. This is Heal Dish. Let's begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Monday episode of Heal Dish. I'm your host, Gina. So good to be here. As you can see, I'm kind of under the weather, but I'm still here. So if I can get over the sneezing and the runny nose and kind of looking like, bleh, it's okay. I'm here. I showed up, and that's all that matters. We live in the middle of nowhere, literally, and the farmers have been taking off all of their crops, and I know my nose is like, oh my goodness. So they've been taking off all their crops. Our home is literally just surrounded. We live in literally out in a rural area in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fields, and so the farmers are taking off all of their corn and hay and everything else, and so it's flying everywhere. And so I think I have allergy. Well, I know I have allergies. It's allergies going into, I believe, a cold. And I just noticed like I probably should have put some concealer on my nose. Of course, Sly had to say, "Oh, your nose is all red." Well, that's because the tissues were like, I might as well should have just used like sandpaper. I mean, they were terrible. I'm like, dude, I know we have some other tissues floating around, but it's fine. You know me, I am very authentic. I'm very real, very raw. And so here I am. Yeah. With my raw nose, right? No, really. And so I welcome everybody back to a fine Monday here on Heal Dish. And I hope over the past week, each and every one of you have been blessed and had a wonderful week of not only blessings, but of achievements and things that, you would have liked to have accomplished and things like that. But most importantly, making sure that self-care is something that you are doing for yourself. We can't be a good role model, a good parent, a good spouse, a good friend, if we are not taking the initiative to practice self-care on ourselves. We're going to get burnt out and things like that. And so it's really, really important that you take care of yourself, not only mentally, but physically, emotionally, and really take care of yourself. Go out and grab that favorite drink that you like. Should say that favorite coffee, because I would never encourage alcoholic beverages or anything like that. So, your favorite coffee, your favorite tea, your favorite dirty soda. And it's not alcohol in the dirty soda. It's usually cream or something else, some of these wild things they're going. Go take a walk in the park, go do something for yourself. Doesn't mean you have to go spend a whole lot of money, but, go do something for yourself. And, just to appreciate yourself, show some self-love, some self-worth, and really make yourself feel good. So let's start a little bit of why we're here, what we do, for those that may be new. My name is Gina. I'm a certified neurotransformative practitioner, and I'm also a certified therapeutic art specialist. And so I am the founder of Heal Dish. I'm the founder and creator of Neurosomatic Art of Transformation. And I am also the founder and creator of a trauma and mental health conference. It used to be called Rise Up from Trauma. It is now going to be transitioned into a new name. We are totally rebranding that, and it will be called We Understand You. Hi, Heather. We Understand You. And it's bringing hope, healing, and transformation through education, neuroscience, neurophysiology, neurobiology, hands-on demonstrations and things like that. And so gearing more towards adults and adolescents, family trauma survivors, really gearing towards that. And so we will have a live in-person conference April of 2026. And so I'm super excited to be offering that. And one of the other things that we'll be offering, hopefully fall of next year, is we will be offering a weekend retreat, which will be more healing, which is absolutely amazing. And so we want to be able to do it not only for women, but also as men, because there's not a whole lot of resources for men out there. And so we're kind of looking at doing both, because we really feel like, not only, it just seems like there's a lot of resources out there for men, but I'm sorry, a lot of resources out there for women and not for men. And so we really want to try to start filling in the gaps and doing some things for men because, um, we truly understand, whether it's male or female, we truly understand the after effects of trauma and certain things. And I think, men getting together and just kind of, not even talking about it, but getting together and working through your challenges and stuff like that, and knowing that there's other people that have gone through things and understand you. We understand you, and really helps aid the part of healing, the relational part of healing. There has to be a positive relationship, positive role model for trauma to actually start healing. And so yeah. So we are super excited about those couple events that are coming up in 2026. And so super excited for that. Another thing, I know I share this week after week, and I'm like, I got to get motivated to do this. And it's not motivation. It's just trying to get everything going. And that's the Christian podcast. We've already come up with a name. And it's just a matter of just moving forward and getting some things together and just moving forward and just saying, you know what, forget it. I'm done. Let's go. And so we will hopefully, I mean, if not, we got to wait till 2026, but we're going to do that. And then I have my art podcast that I haven't really been on either. I've just been so busy writing this workbook and really trying to narrow that down, because that is really going to help people, excuse me, on this healing journey of transforming the mind, body, and soul. And so if this is your first time at Healdish, I welcome you. And we are a mental health and trauma channel. We talk about real, raw truth surrounding mental health and trauma. I educate, bring resources, tools, resources from a neuroscience, neurophysiology, neurobiology perspective. And I give tools and resources here live on the channel. And really just, I know what it's like to go, almost 40 years. Well, actually, it was over 40 years going and stuck in survival mode, not knowing exactly what was going on. And when I started going into my program to understand what was going on with me, little did I know that God was literally opening up the doorway for me to start working with other females that had endured similar things or trauma altogether. And so it's been very, very heartbreaking, but very rewarding. And so I have gone on to get multiple certifications, but it always comes back to, educating people why you feel the way that you do, and why you constantly and consistently stay, stay in this ruminating, whether it's anxiety, whether it's overthinking, whether you're just ruminating on a thought. And so we bring a lot of truth, and it's backed up by neuroscience, neurophysiology, neurobiology. I have studied and followed Dr. Gaber Mate, Dr. Bessel van de Colt, and Janine Fisher, three of the world-renowned psychologists, wonderful, wonderful trauma specialists, and I absolutely love them. And Dr. Gaber Mate, you probably heard The Body Keeps the Score. We talk about it. And it was in that book that I realized that I wasn't going crazy, that I wasn't losing my mind, that the after effects of trauma have caused a lot of the things that I have dealt with in my life. And so I don't want anybody to suffer as long as I have. Excuse me. And so I started doing podcasts. And I really feel like this is leading into something bigger and bigger that God has called me to do. And he's given me visions. And so, trying to be more consistent, trying to show up, because it's all about showing up for others. And so that's hard. But I try with having, a family and stuff like that. There's a lot going on. And so I do try my best to be here when I can. But just like other people, I don't like the winter months. And so sometimes I just want to be a hermit and just kind of be by myself. And so I just ask for grace in that manner. I try to push myself, but there are times I'm like, I really don't feel like doing it. I don't want to be on camera. But those that deal with seasonal depression, you kind of understand. Excuse me. I was never diagnosed with that, but it just seems like a lot of people have that. Mine is more a trauma response. leading up to the holidays, leading up to when my trauma started, and my body remembers, and so my body just kind of wants to crawl underneath the covers and stay there for a while. But I get up and do things because that's what the enemy would want me to do, is just to stay under the covers, soak up all that negativity. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. And so if you are looking for mental health and trauma tools and resources, ways to transform and heal, you have come to the right channel. You are at the right space. And so I apologize again for the way that I look, but I'm here. And that's most important, is that I'm here, and I'm showing up, and we'll get through this and things like that too. And so last week we talked about how anxiety is not a mental illness. It's your nervous system stuck in survival mode. And so tonight we're going to go deeper in why the nervous system becomes stuck. So last week we kind of talked about some different things leading up to the nervous system being stuck, going into the subconscious, the conscious area, the unconscious, what happens in the body, what happens when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, what happens in the hippocampus and the amygdala, and all of that to do with the brain and everything like that. And so tonight, what I want to talk about, thank you, Heather. Tonight, what I want to talk about more is going deeper as far as, why we get stuck in the nervous system, why the nervous system gets stuck and dysregulation and the fight, flight, and freeze. I always forget that you don't include fawn in those. And so, if you've had anxiety for a long time, if you just have anger outburst, for a long time, if your window of tolerance is not, if it's still very low, you could have either emotional dysregulation or nervous system dysregulation, and they go hand in hand. And that is a part of your nervous system being stuck in survival. And so, as you know, what we have come to find out is the nervous system becomes stuck in survival mode because trauma lives in the body, not the mind. Hence, the body keeps the score of the book. And so if you've ever been wondering, why can't I get over it? Why does something from years ago keep affecting me? Why does my body react before I even think? Then I want you to stick around and kind of listen to what's going on, because this is probably the episode that you need to hear, because I was oblivious. I remember going into places and just feeling nervous and feeling like, oh, I don't know if I really want to be here. But I stayed through it, and then I would feel sick. And it's because my body was trying to protect me from something, but I just was trying to override my mind. And so what we're going to unpack today, I want you to unpack with clarity, compassion, and then we're going to use real neuroscience. And so I want you to really look at it, through a different lens tonight. I want you to look at it through more compassion. And give yourself compassion. If this is something that you go through, I really want you to be compassionate with yourself and kind. Give yourself some grace, because, we didn't get this way overnight. And it's going to take time to heal and time to start peeling back those layers of the things that we've endured, and really start working on the innermost parts of us that really need that deep healing. Some people are just like, I'm just too old. I've been stuck this way. You're not stuck, but I mean, kind of you are. Like, I've been this way my whole life. But I will tell you, from somebody that used to be the way that I was, and then looking at the transformed part of Gina, I would never want to go back to the old Gina and try to change my past, because my past shaped me into who I am today. And I wouldn't change that for anything. I wouldn't change it for $1 million. I may change it if I could smack my husband. No, that's actually abuse. Sorry. I just had to throw that on there. I love you, honey. I really wouldn't, but I was just kidding. But that wasn't really trauma informed, but I just had to throw a little joke in there. But seriously though, in all fairness though, I wouldn't change who I was in the past, because it really did bring me back into who I am today. And I actually love myself today. I love myself, and it took me a very long time to be able to love myself. And we've talked about this in the past and things like that too. And, when talking with my husband and stuff like that. And so, let's talk about, the body is the first brain, literally. And it is. That's the one, before we had logic or language, we had sensation. And that's what we call somatic. Think about it. when you feel things. So what happens when you start feeling angry? What happens? Usually you'll feel your face get red. Your heart rate will start increasing. And you just get this feeling of rage, like your adrenaline just rises up. You get this feeling of rage. And so, that is a somatic sensation going, whoop, okay, my body feels this sensation. And so what happens is, as humans first evolved, so number one, a body that detects danger, a nervous system that responds, and a thinking brain that interprets what's happening. And so there's three different things. And so what that means is that your body has been protecting you for millions of years without you even thinking about it. So, and longer than we've even been thinking about it. So think about it, like we're going back to our ancestors and things like that. And they didn't have all these tools or resources and things like that. They just learned to deal with it, probably out in the fields and moving around and stuff like that. So, movement is the best thing to do to try to release the trapped trauma, the emotions on the cellular level. So they moved a lot. They were, working in the fields, working in the home, taking care of children, doing all kinds of things. So they didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about things. But this has been going on for millions of years. And so it's just your body's way of protecting you. It's your body's way of thinking for you. It's your safety net. And so the most ancient part of the nervous system stores survival memories, what felt danger, what hurt you, what you had to do to stay safe. And so your body remembers every single thing that you've gone through. Your body remembers. Even if your mind does not, your body does. And so if you think about it, if you start thinking about a memory of something that you've done, your body will start feeling like happy. You get that giddy feeling and you're like, "Ooh, wait a minute, I really like this feeling." Kind of like when we took our family to Disney. I can't even talk tonight. I'm so sorry. We had a tragedy the year before. So when we went to Disney, it was a year after that happened. And so, there was still a part of me that there was still a trauma response. But when I think about Disney, I don't think about what happened the year prior before us going. But what I remember is, my kids and how much fun they had and how much fun I had. And it's like my little inner child is so happy. And she got to come out and play. And so I get like kind of all giddy and I just absolutely love it. And so that is the somatic feeling and the response of something that you have gone through. And so that's a memory, but that's obviously a conscious memory of what you're remembering. Subconscious is something you don't remember, but the body does. So remember that. And so these memories are not stored as stories. They're stored as tension patterns, reflective reactions, or avoidance behavior. So you don't want to go into a place. You stay away from anything, and then tension. And then you start having a lot of tension, and then you may have a lot of outburst, different things like that. You shut down. So you start isolating. You don't really want to talk to anybody. You start just like, oh, nope, see you later. And that happens a lot. And especially coming into the fall and the winter seasons when the weather starts getting colder and things like that too. A lot of us do want to shut down. The best thing you can do, though, is get up and move around and do what you need to do and try to have a productive day and just try to keep yourself energized and just kind of keep yourself motivated the best that you can. Color, doing art, doing the things that you absolutely love. Having a hobby in the wintertime is one of the best things that you can do to help get through it. Having a support system like we do here and just kind of helping and encouraging everybody week after week, just to let everybody know that they're not alone. And that's really important. Another thing is anxiety, and we all know what anxiety is, and so I don't really have to get into that, but anxiety. And so your body remembers, even when your mind can't explain it, exactly what the subconscious does. And so it's the subconscious. That's where a lot of those memories are stored. We can't see them, but our body remembers exactly what's going on. And so that's why I really love the neurosomatic art and, some of the other things that are done, because it really starts getting in there, and safely rewires, repairs, and reconnects the neural pathways. And then there are some other things that we do that actually increase neurogenesis, which is actually where they start regrowing neural pathways in the subconscious. And so that's what we need. What we're trying to do is override what's in there now and bring in new things. So your body can start healing and getting all of that out. And so, we've talked about this before, but one of the reasons why a lot of times when people go and see like social workers, psychiatrists, or not psychiatrists, psychologists, a lot of times when they, or counselors, a lot of times what ends up happening is they only work on the mind, not the body. And so we can't work on the mind before we work on the body, because it's the body that is, I want to say this, I say it after all the time, but it's the body that drives the thoughts in the mind. So we have to work on, we can't work on the body, or sorry, we can't work on the mind first. We have to work on the body, because it's the body that's driving what's happening up here. So that's why I love the art, because when we're doing the art and you have a sensation somewhere, that's where that trauma is stored in the body. Well, then whatever thought is associated with that, then we know that that's where the trauma is stuck. That's where the trauma is trapped. And so we integrate to release that through art and through integration processes and things like that. And so, I did talk therapy for many, many years. I'm not against it. It's just that we have learned through the neuroscience, neurobiology, and neurophysiology that trauma stays in the body on the cellular level, and there has to be some sort of movement in order to start releasing the trauma on the cellular level. So some of the things that you can do is you can do walking. I love the neurosomatic art. You can do breath work. You can do dance party in your living room for 5 minutes, where you're just belting out tunes and you're just dancing and you look like some crazy person. That is perfectly fine. Because it's all about getting your body to move. Another thing you can do is just shake. You might look like, goofy, but just shake like you get the chills and you're just shaking. Because when you're shaking, what you're doing is that's part of the trauma release exercises. And when you do that, you literally start releasing some of that trapped trauma it's stuck in your body. And so these are things that you can do daily. I might do them a couple times a day, realistically speaking. Dance party, sometimes people are like, yeah, it's okay. But once a day, do a dance party once a day, shake yourself off, a couple times a day if you would like. And so, excuse me. And what that does is you're literally starting to release trauma on the cellular level. And a lot of people like doing the dance party. Excuse me a minute. A lot of people like doing the dance party because in the moment you're exercising too. So not only are you exercising the lungs, because now you're belting out tunes as you're doing it, but you're literally moving your whole entire body. And so you're releasing it and the lung capacity. And it's so important for trauma survivors to make sure that you're using your lungs to the full capacity. Most people that are stuck in survival, probably getting off on a tangent, but sometimes these things just come to mind, and it may be already in here, but sometimes what ends up happening is that when we're stuck in survival mode, when we start breathing, we breathe from the top half up of our bodies. And so you'll notice when somebody's like really stressed in survival mode, when they breathe, their shoulders move. And you can see it. I used to be that way. And they would just breathe like this. And you could see it. And as I started going through my training, I was like, holy mackerel. Yes. I mean, I like this. Sly says need to do Screamo music then. Absolutely. I mean, you can. I mean, because this is why when you are stuck in survival and you're only using the half part of your lungs and you're literally like just kind of shallow breathing and stuff like that, what happens is the lower half of your lungs, it's not that they start dying, but they're not being used. So they're like, wait a minute, we're just going to shut off. And so that's why it's so important for us as trauma survivors to take deep breaths several times a day. Even if you have to set a timer, take a deep breath several times a day. That's why it's very, very important for you to do dance party, to belt out, because what happens is now you start filling your whole entire lung capacity. Now you're expanding your lung capacity. You're getting more air into your bronchioles and your bronchi way down on the into your lung capacity, which they look like those little roots at the end. And so now your lungs are starting to fill up. So now what you notice is as you're breathing, you're not breathing up here doing, having your shoulders do this. You're literally breathing your whole entire lung capacity. And so trauma survivors hold their breath. So it's very, very important to pay attention to how you're breathing. Are you breathing at the top? Are you breathing at the bottom? Or are you just breathing all together, and kind of pay attention to it, and things like that too. And so Dave says, I listen to a lot of Grateful Dead and the takes me 3 days to get through a song. Well, that's all right. Take 3 days to get through a song. You know what? Listen to it for a couple minutes and do what you need to do. But when you belt them out, even if you're not dancing, but even if you belt it out, you're taking those deep breaths and then you're belting out the music. And so you're literally taking those deep breaths in, clearing out your lungs, and you're getting all of that CO2 that's stuck there in your lungs, da 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 da. You're getting all that pushed up out of there and out of the world. So into the world. So you're releasing it. That's what you need to do. Definitely what you need to do. And so that is one of the things that I teach my clients, because that is just one of the things that you really need, that, we really need to work on, and is really doing that, and really trying to figure out how to get all of that stuff out of there and stuff like that too, and releasing it from our lungs, because you don't want it stored up in there and things like that. You really want your lungs to function at a higher capacity and things like that too. And so I remember when I went to the lung doctor after I was sick in 22, I believe it was, and my lung capacity had really went downhill after I was sick. And of course I'm on 2 medications now. And, and in one of the tests that they gave me, it was a lung, inflammation test. And it was supposed to be like under 400 or under 200, and mine was over like 600, which showed that my lungs still had a lot of inflammation on there. And so it was just like, holy mackerel. So going on what I had and then only breathing from this top of my lungs, it really put, kind of did damage to my lungs, to my lung capacity. And so now I make sure that I am breathing deep, and pay attention to what I'm doing, and stuff like that. And so I belt out tunes, I get up and move around and things like that too. And so, really make sure that you're focusing on your breathing and things like that too, and what you're doing. Roxanne, absolutely. I will definitely post it when it's finished for you. Thank you. And so let's start talking about procedural memory. And this is part of the hidden storage system. And so these are different memory systems in the brain. And you probably didn't realize that we had different memories. And we have explicit and implicit. And so explicit is more of the facts, the timeline, the conscious recall. So things that we remember. The implicit procedure memory is more of the reactions, the reflexes, the emotions. And so trauma is actually stored in the implicit memory. And so that's where it's in the reactions, the reflexes, and the emotions. That's why it's called, being stuck in survival mode. And so that's why you feel instantly triggered when you walk into an establishment. Maybe you walk by somebody that looks like somebody, that may have hurt you in the past, maybe a smell, maybe a color. And so that's why you feel instantly triggered without knowing what activated you, because you don't really pay attention to what it is, but your body remembers because your subconscious does, your implicit memory does. Interesting, right? Very interesting. So example is, if you once learned that raised voices equals danger, your body will respond to anger like it's happening again, even if it's not directed at you. And this is pretty interesting. So this brings me to another another thing. This is just interesting. It says, so if you once learned that raised voices equals danger, your body will respond to anger like it's happening again, even if it's not directed at you. So you might say it's not a big deal, but your body says, we've seen this before, protect. And so this isn't irrational. This is protective pattern or protective patterning. And so I want to stop there for a minute because I want to share something with you. And this is probably why it's interesting that that what we're talking about is something that I have recently experienced. And so I was actually going to change my whole entire title tonight and talk about this, but I'm just going to briefly talk about this. If you once learned that raised voices equals danger, your body will respond to anger like it's happening again, even if it's not directed at you. And so prime example, we have a local coach, and I don't even care if this gets back to them at this point. It doesn't even really matter, but there is a local coach that has kind of been responding in a negative way. And I picked up on it from the messages I did not like. And there was just some other things that I didn't like. And now I see why. Because if you once learned that raised voices equals danger, then your body will respond to anger like it's happening now. And so because I went through that type of stuff, I don't think any kid anywhere, any coach, any kid anywhere should ever have to endure things like we did growing up. And so it now I understand why my body reacted the way that it did when these kids were telling me different things. And then when, I work with my adolescents and the things that they tell me about, different coaches and different things that are happening and things like that too. Now it makes me understand why I can see things through a different lens versus somebody that may not be a mental health professional or may not understand it from a trauma-informed lens. And so it really, not that it felt like I was going through it again, but it made my nervous system very weird, like very ill-feeling, like no child should ever have to go through that stuff. Whether here, local, far away, I don't even care. No child should ever have to go through any of that and feel that. And so, and so that's just pretty interesting that now I understand why why my body responded the way that it did. And so let's talk about the brain structures involved in trauma and then the different layers. And so, we have talked about the amygdala. So the amygdala usually sits right about here, give or take, somewhere in this region or whatever. And so the amygdala is the fight or flight response, the alarm. Ding, ding, ding. Danger, danger, danger. It detects a threat fast, remembers danger strongly, and what happens is it hijacks the whole system. So think about it. The amygdala starts, the prefrontal cortex shuts off, then all hell breaks loose. Let's just be real. That's what's going to happen. So you got your amygdala, that's the alarm. Then we got the hippocampus, which is the timekeeper, which the hippocampus is more like the drive, like I was going to say the flash drive, like the hard drive. That's kind of what it is. And so it helps stores memories and context. Trauma can shrink and dysregulate this. And so that's kind of what this is as well. And kind of looking at it and going, hey, wait a minute, like what's going on? And stuff like that as well. And so kind of looking at it and going, whoa, wait a minute. And so that's where all the memories, that's the hard drive. So the hippocampus is the timekeeper. That's where the hard drive is of the memories. And then you have the amygdala, which is the alarm. And that's the one that sees the threats and everything like that. And so with the hippocampus, the body believes that the threat is current. And so, we have these memories, and then all of a sudden, it activates the amygdala, which is the alarm, the fight or flight. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute. The threat is current. Holy smokes, what are we going to do? So then the prefrontal cortex kicks on, the logic brain, and it's like, wait a minute, we're going to try to help calm the brain. Or sorry, we're going to help calm the alarm. But what happens is it ends up going offline in the threat states. So this is why you can't think your way out of it. I talk about this all the time with trauma survivors, all the time. I educate you on the prefrontal cortex shuts off when you go into fight or flight, or fight, flight, or freeze. Automatically shuts off. They're am I frozen? Yep, sorry. Fight, flight, and freeze. Automatically, your prefrontal cortex shuts off. And if you are a trauma survivor, it's probably not fully developed, as far as it's fully developed, but it's not fully engaged. Let me rephrase that. It's fully developed. It's not fully engaged. And so what happens is you can't think your way out of it, because now your prefrontal cortex is not even working the way that it's supposed to be working. So now what ends up happening is you have your amygdala, which is the alarm, the hippocampus, which is the timekeeper, and then you have your prefrontal cortex, which is the logic brain. And so do you see where all three of those work together? And so what happens is bottom line, during trauma, the part of your brain that helps you survive wins, and the part that explains why waits. And so this part wins, why this part waits. And because this shuts off, it's kind of like when you go into fight, flight, or freeze, and you start just spewing at the mouth, you don't even know what you're saying. A lot of times people get so irritated, they don't even know what they're saying. And their logical thinking is just kind of goes out the window. They have no idea what's going on. It's because there's a threat. The alarm has gone off because it has a memory. And now the prefrontal cortex is shut off and said, oh, well, I can't think my way out of this one. And so I used to do that. I used to spew at the mouth, and I'd be like, man, what on? And then all of a sudden it was like, I would snap out of it and be like, what was I even saying? Like, this makes no sense at all. And so, those are the three areas of the brain where that all have the response when there is a threat. And so it starts with the memory, goes to the amygdala, and then goes to the prefrontal cortex. So it's interesting how all of that works. And it's the amygdala that is responsible for fight, flight, and freeze. And it's the one that is the hijacker. And so that's the one that we really have to work on. And working on that. And, we work on all of this, the subconscious wise, and, subconscious, unconscious, and conscious levels, because it's super important to work on all of that while we're working on those three parts of the brain. Because in order to heal, you have to start healing all of this together, and along with the body and things like that too. It's just really, really important that you continue to do that. Or guess what? You're going to be stuck in fight, flight, or freeze for a very long time. And that's what we're trying to get each and every one of you out of. It's about healing. It's about transformation. And there are some people that unfortunately don't want to heal, and that's in transform, and that's totally up to them. But I'm here just to try to help you understand, and really help you all see, how things kind of come together and can help us heal and stuff like that too. So, and stuff. And so, which is really good. I like the, we went back to belting music, and I just happened to look over, and they started talking about Twisted Sister and Tesla and all that stuff. It was pretty good. I like Twisted Sister. I like that one song. I like that song too. So I was super excited. We're talking about music. I was super excited, even though I'm a Christian. I love New Edition. I love Boys to Men, and they are coming to, I think it's Toledo or Columbus. And if I could find somebody to go with me, I would love to go. Oh, I would love to go see them. I absolutely love them. I seen Boys to Men quite a few years ago in Columbus. And but I would love to see New Edition and Boys to Men together. I think that would be an ultimate concert to go see, and I'd really get my lungs going then, because I'd be screaming and hooting and hollering and everything else. Probably wouldn't have a voice the next day, but I would love to go see them as well, which would be pretty cool. So let's talk about triggers. We'll start talking about that. Just time travel without consent, and so exactly triggering. So a trigger is when the brain says, this feels familiar to something that hurt me before. So we've talked about this. When we have a trigger, basically what ends up happening is your body remembers. Your body knows what it's like. Even if the situation is different, your nervous system relives the past in real time. So that's why you have to be gentle with yourself. That's why you have to give yourself grace. You have to be compassionate, because your body remembers what your mind does not. You have to really give yourself grace in those moments, because every situation is different. You don't know when your body's going to show up and show out. You have no idea. And so that's why there's a lot of people that have panic attacks, agoraphobia, all of those types of things, because now they're wondering, oh my goodness, if I go out to this restaurant, is this going to happen to me? If I go here, is this going to happen to me? And I lived those. That was me. I still have some issues with some things, but I was healed of the majority of the things that I was going through way back in September. I still have some lingering things that I'm not going to claim, but I still do, that I'm working through, that God's working through me. But there were some things, the majority of the things that I had been dealing with, God healed me. I believe it was September 13th. He healed me. And so I'm forever grateful for those things and things like that. But it doesn't mean that, that they may not show up again, because I'm human. My body remembers and things like that. But the more I work on myself, I'm hoping that those memories are few and far between. And that's what it takes to do this. It takes a lot of hard work, but the end results are far worth ever being stuck in survival mode for as long as I was. And so I would do it all over again and stuff like that. And so what I want you to understand is that when this happens, and we relive when we relive the past in real time, it's not a sign of weakness. This is survival memory misfiring due to trauma. Repetition. And so it's going, okay, my body remembers, and it's the trauma repeating. And it may not even be a trauma, but whether you're watching something, whether it's a smell, whether it's a color, and those are the things that we don't understand. I remember watching a movie one day, and I don't remember what the movie was, and but they were driving on the highway. And I just became so nervous. And then there was something else, and I just started crying, and I was sitting there going, and I don't remember what the movie was. But come to find out, the husband had passed away. And so that was like the wife was driving, but I believe it showed him driving. Oh, Heather, I would love to be able to go. If you were up here, we would go, sister. But just what I'm trying to say is, just watching movies, watching shows, you have to be mindful, because sometimes they can dysregulate us too. They're triggers to us. And so I educate you as well and say, you know what, be very mindful of what you're watching before you go to bed. What are you listening to? Be very mindful of the conversations going on around you. Are they hindering you? Are they hurting you? Or are they inspiring and empowering you? What type of people are in your friends group? That's really, and even at work too, that's really what you have to take into consideration. And so one thing you have to teach your body is you have to teach it that you're safe. And because it doesn't recognize that you're safe yet, because it's been years and years and years of this, I don't know why I can't talk tonight. Sorry. It's been years and years and years of being in this dysregulated state, that now it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been here for so long. This is normal to me. I don't know about coming out and healing and feeling safe. That feels foreign to me. And so it's taking those small steps every day. Every day it's the small steps to overcome some sort of challenge that you're facing in that day, and saying, you know what, I did it. I did it. I did not let my trauma win today. I did not let this win today. I was able to get up. I was able to shower. I was able to brush my teeth, comb my hair. I went out and checked my mail today. Those are all great wins, because there's so many people, unfortunately, that can't even get out of bed. And kudos to you for getting out of bed, brushing your hair, checking the mail. So we always say this is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. That's exactly what's happening here. So it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. So remember that. And the flashbacks, absolutely, Heather. And my heart goes out to you because the flashbacks are absolutely devastating when we start having flashbacks and stuff like that. And so, when you move closer to me, I will definitely work with you more on the flashbacks and stuff like that because the flashbacks are bad. But that's a part of the flashbacks are part of the complex trauma. And so the flashbacks that happen, they happen as if the trauma is happening right now in real time until the body remembers those types of things and stuff like that. And so my heart goes out to you and things like that. And when you finally get up here, we will definitely work with you on those things because I don't want you to have to continue to stay in those. It's not fair to you at all. And another thing that the things that happen to you, to any of us, don't define who we are. And so many times people say, oh, well, you know what? I'm this because of my trauma. I'm that because of my trauma. Oh, I'm strong because of the things I went through. And so, if you think that because of what you went through made you stronger, but really what made you stronger was coming out and healing. It wasn't your trauma that made you strong. It was the healing. You got up and did something about it. You're a cycle breaker. You did something about it. And so, I want you to be proud of that and say, you know what, that it wasn't your trauma per se that made you mad or made you, I was going to say made you mad. Jeez, that made you strong. It was the healing and overcoming it. You're an overcomer. That's what made you strong. So remember that. And so that's why I always tell people you're a brave warrior. Like you're a warrior, you're strong, resilient, and and things like that you were able to overcome adversity. You were able to overcome statistics that says otherwise, and look where you are today. And I talk about taking the ACEs score. My ACEs score is a 9 out of 10, and so my adversity, there should have been a lot of things that have happened in my life. And so, the percentages of different health issues that I should have had was in the 200 and 300%. But I serve a God that understands that, nope, I wasn't going to have that. And he didn't want that stuff to happen to me. And so I don't have any of those. Praise God. The only thing that I deal with is asthma. And I think the only reason I deal with that is because I changed salt life for swamp life. And so where I live, it's a swamp. And so I firmly believe, I probably had it when I was in Massachusetts, no doubt. But the salt there was helping me versus the swamp here. And so we live on an area that was a black swamp. And so I firmly believe that your environment plays a role in a lot of the different things too. And so if that's the only thing that I have, praise God, that's fine with me. It's better than a 390% chance of developing something else. And so when I tell you that that I have overcome a lot, I have overcome a lot, and I'm allowed to say that I'm strong, that I'm a mighty warrior, because the stuff that I endured should have knocked me down, and here I am standing talking to each and every one of you today. And so I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of each and every one of you for being here as well, and you should be proud of yourself. And so so trauma interrupts the body mid-response. And so what ends up happening is it wanted to run, but it couldn't. It wanted to fight, but wasn't allowed. It wanted to cry, but had to stay strong. And so this is when the body tries to finish what was never completed. And so this is the body mid-response going, hey, wait a minute, now there's an interruption. It's kind of like when you have that adrenaline rush and you want to run, but you can't. You want to fight, but you weren't allowed. So, when you were in school and all of a sudden you got so mad and so angry, and it may have brought back a flashback of something else. And you're like, oh my goodness. And you wanted to fight, but you couldn't. Or you wanted to cry, but you had to stay strong. So that's incomplete survival strategy, and it gets stored in the nervous system. So later what ends up happening, it turns into panic, anxiety, rage, or shutdown. And these are attempts to complete the original response. And so what happens is that, we weren't able, the trauma interrupts the mid-body response. And so what happens is you can't run, you can't fight, or you can't cry. So then because you can't do those things, what happens is now you attempt to do it later under anxiety, under panic, under rage, under shutdown. And so now instead of doing it in a healthy response, now you're completing those in more of a negative dysregulation response. So do you see the difference? So what's happening is the body is trying to help you survive. It's trying to finish the survival for you any way that it can, because that's what it's used to. It's used to saying, okay, well, I can't fight. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to be really angry. And so just different things like that. And so, you can't fight. Well, you know what? Now I'm going to have anxiety. Now I'm going to have panic. Now I just, want to just yell and scream at you. And, and that's part of the emotional dysregulation. And now I just want to yell and scream at you all the time and things like that. And so that's why we always talk about when these types of things happen, healing must include movement, expression, grounding, breathing, and sensation, not just talking. So there has to be some sort of movement, some sort of expression, grounding, breath, and sensation. Can't just be talking. You can't talk your way out of anything, because when you become dysregulated and you're stuck in survival mode, what happens is when you're triggered, your logical thinking shuts off and it's out the window. And so then what are you going to do? Not a whole lot you can do, right? Think about it. Not a whole lot you can do. And then you're going, well, wait a minute, what am I going to do? Well, that's why they always say, like, you need to be careful. Like, don't make any impulse decisions. And how many of us make impulse decisions? Well, I don't do that anymore, but I used to be one of those ones that would make impulse decisions. And my impulse decisions was probably the worst. I've talked about this, was probably jewelry. That was probably my worst impulse decision. And there are times that I was like, ooh, that would be really good. Oh, we should go here. We should go do this. And then I think, no, wait a minute. Am I acting from a trauma response, or am I acting from a healthy, healed adult response? And then I have to check where I am, where I'm responding from. Most people that are in survival mode, most people that are dysregulated and triggered, act in from an impulse standpoint of things. And so what ends up happening is they go do the things that they want to do because they're looking for that dopamine high. That dopamine high is very temporary. So you're going to go and do what you got to do, and then you're going to be complaining because then you're going to have shopper's guilt. And so, it just depends. So really pay attention with those types of things as well. And pay attention when you're making choices. Pay attention to where you're making the choices out of. Are you making the choices out of trauma brain, or are you making the choices out of healed adult brain? You'll be able to tell, because are you chasing that dopamine high, or are you just, wanting that stuff because you deserve it and it's something that you've worked hard for and you've saved for? You'll know the difference. And one of the ways, like for me, I had a huge heavy duty jewelry addiction. And after I bought jewelry, I'd feel good for maybe a day, and then I'd be like, why did I buy this? Like, am I nuts? And guess what? It would go and it would probably sit in my jewelry box and collect dust. And I was like, yeah, I just bought it. And I have so many pieces of jewelry. And I would say, yeah, okay, well, I'll probably eventually wear that. And then I don't. It just sits there and collects dust. And it wasn't probably till about 3 years ago that God delivered me from that. And brought me to my senses and delivered me and said, Gina, you have a jewelry addiction. This is something. And so I was chasing that dopamine high in all the wrong places. And so, praise God that he had healed me from that. And if he heals me, he can definitely heal each one of you as well. And things like that. But it's really paying attention deep down inside of what is going on with me. What's going on? What am I chasing? Why do I want to spend all my money on this? Same thing with gambling. There's a lot of people that like gambling because the gambling, it's the dopamine high. You go and you're like, ooh, you feel inferior. And you're like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to win, da, 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 da. And then you just lost $5,000 and you walk out and now you feel more lousy. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Now you do buy me jewelry. And Sly does. He buys me jewelry, and you can ask him. I get mad at him and I tell him, no, take it back. I don't want it. He bought me a watch for Christmas. I have not worn it yet. Maybe I don't know. I haven't even worn it yet, and I will. But I don't need anything. And I tell him all the time, like I'm at a place now that those are the things that I don't need. I love you, but don't buy me any more jewelry. Please don't. And I have more than enough. More than enough. My girls will be blessed with a lot of this jewelry. And so that's what it'll end up going anyway. And so, but it's, that's just looking back, that was the addiction that I have. And a lot of people don't look at those types of addictions, and the dopamine that we're chasing, and then the hurt and the pain. And that's what it is. We are so hurt, and we have so much pain that we're trying to cover, that we're just looking for that glimpse of hope. We're looking for that glimpse of dopamine that we can chase, and say, okay, this is what I want. So really pay attention, and things like that. So, yep. And so Scott says, and this, and I like, and this is, it says people with lack of common sense drive me to negative spaces. And I agree. Things that we, but I do want to say this. There are people that seem like they may lack common sense, and chances are they probably, realistically speaking, do lack common sense. And that goes back to, and this is another neuroscience, neurophysiology, neurobiology standpoint of the brain. People that I can't even talk tonight. I am so sorry. People that lack common sense, it's usually because their prefrontal cortex is not engaged properly. Then there's another part of the prefrontal cortex called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is for common sense. It goes back to oversharing, time management, all of those things. And so those types of people that don't have common sense, they probably truly don't have common sense because their brain is not working properly. Now, with that said, there are people that I often wonder, like, how did you not know that? Like, there's a lot of things that I look at and say, how did you not know that? That's like, for instance, this is one thing. Okay. We have been brushing our teeth probably since our parents started it, probably 6 months or so when we started getting teeth. Common sense to us would be brush your teeth twice, 3 times a day, correct? So some people won't brush their teeth, even though it's common sense to brush your teeth. Some people will not brush their teeth. And then you have to look at it as a trauma response. Do they have some sort of autism? Do they have a sensory disorder? And so then it becomes, is it really common sense, lack of common sense, or is it something else? So hopefully that kind of would shed a little bit of light on what you said, Scott. And it does. I mean, but depending on what aspect of things and stuff like that too. And so, yeah. And so, Sly says, I buy it because I want to, not because you asked for it. Absolutely. And I'm very grateful that you do that. And I love that you do it, and stuff. And that means the most to me, because now you're buying it to buy it. You're not buying it because I'm begging you. You're not buying it because now I'm acting like a 2-year-old that didn't get her way. You're literally buying it because now you want to without reason. And it could be, the reason could just because. And I love that. I love that you do that. And I appreciate that. Heather says, the things I hate is when people say everything will be okay. And so, let's talk about this for a minute, because everything will be okay, but it depends on the genuine aspect of when somebody says that to you. Now, I can say that to you, and I hope that you understand that I'm saying it coming out of love and respect for you, because everything will be okay, because we have Christ on our side. It takes faith to believe that everything's going to be okay. Now, if you have somebody that's just some Joe Schmo from the road, and he's saying, oh, everything's going to be all right, without knowing, then yeah, I'd kind of be like, yeah, okay, I get it. But we have to train ourselves to understand that when we're coming from, as a Christian standpoint, we have to stand firm on the foundation of Jesus, and everything will be okay because he will take care of us. He will take care of us. And it's going, okay, God, I know that you have me. I'm going to have faith. And faith is faith is believing without seeing. That's faith. I'm believing that you're going to walk me across the street because, because I can't see, and so God will literally walk you across the street, or it's dark. So let's just say that you're not blind, but it's dark. And so it's dark, you can't see, but God walks you across the street and you are safe on the other side. That's faith. That's faith in God saying, okay, I made it. I made it across the street. And so, really looking at what I'm trying to say is looking at who is saying it, why they're saying it, and why they're doing it. Because I see things from a different lens than most of you do because of what I do. Not saying I'm any superior than you are. I'm not saying that at all. But because I see things through a different lens is why I'm saying what I'm saying. And sometimes common sense kind of gets thrown out the window. Because I would say, oh, well, that's common sense that you would do that, or that's common sense. And then, and then I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe their brain's not functioning properly. What ended up, maybe something happened to them. And so then I start analyzing, and then I start thinking, and then I think I can be more compassionate and kind because there are other things that happen. And so what I'm going to say to each and every one of you is really take a step back at the things that bother you and really look and say, what is this telling me? Is this a reflection of me, or is it truly a reflection of them? And really pay attention to that. And so let's do a couple of the healing tools and resources. I like doing these. And so we talked about the animal trauma reset, and that's where we just shake it out. We're shaking stress. We're shaking it off. And remember, what do animals do? So just like dogs, cats, any animal, what do? Animals shake after stress, and humans suppress. And so let your body tremor, shake, or move to discharge survival energy safely. So just shake all around, shake, stand up and shake everything. Just shake it all. Shake it all. And so then you can do the now anchor. And this is what actually helps reorient the hippocampus to the present moment. And so you're going to look around and say, today is November 3rd. I am in my office and I see three objects. I see myself on the camera, I see the chat, and I see my camera. Or I could say, today is November 3rd. I am in my office. I see my door, the TV, and my snowman, or whatever. You know what I mean? And, or I see my calm sign and then my relax sign if I'm looking, like literally looking to see. And so what that does is it helps the hippocampus reorient to the present moment. So it literally stops you in the present moment. And so what ends up happening is unfortunately, that's not really unfortunate, but it is in a way. Your body can't be in survival mode and regulated at the same time. It can't be. It's got to be one or the other. And so if you are in dysregulation and you do the shake off, the now anchor, and the completion step, I'll tell you in a minute, your body has to shift. It will not have to, but it will shift to regulation. It can't do all of this. It can't be in this. It can't be stuck in dysregulation while you're doing all of these other things, if that makes sense. Kind of kicks you out of that. Now, it doesn't say that you won't go back, but then just continue to do it. The other thing that you can do is trauma-informed movement. We've talked about that. The other thing you can do is take your eyes and just look far to the right, as far as you can go, and then do it again to the left as far as your eyes will let you, and continue to do that. And so what that does is it actually starts telling your brain, wait a minute, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm grounded, I'm right here. And it literally reorients your hippocampus to the present moment and keeps you in the present moment. which is really, really nice. And so, when we do these small steps is what helps big successes. And so this is what we do to actually help us overcome the challenges that we face, but to keep our systems in a regulated state, not only our nervous system, but our emotions. It helps increase your window of tolerance and things like that too. And so, does anybody have any questions so far or anything like that? So I just want to say to you as well is that here's the truth. You didn't freeze. Your body protected you from something too big. And so remember that, that's a huge one. If you have never been in a freeze response, I talked about this last week. If I had to go through, I've been through fight, flight, and freeze. If I had to choose which one that I would want to go through, and I would stay there for a while, it would definitely be fight. I may be an angry bear, but I would stay and fight. I don't like flight, and I definitely don't like freeze. Freeze is your body literally freezes and you cannot move. It's like being stuck in cement, and I do not like it. Flight, you just want to flee. When your body does not feel safe, you want to flee. And fight, well, you just want to fight because you're angry. Well, I can calm myself down in those instances. The other ones are kind of, I'm in control, but I'm not, but like the freeze, you're in control, but you're just kind of stuck there like a robot. You can't move. You're stuck in the concrete. And so think about that. Think about that. You didn't freeze. Your body protected you from something too big. And so that's what your body did. That was your response. That was your trauma response, was what was to freeze. And so your body didn't, you didn't overreact. Your body remembered a threat your mind forgot. And so that's a part of the subconscious. You aren't dramatic. Your nervous system is trying to complete its survival mission. Healing begins when you stop shaming the body for doing its job. That's why I tell you that it's very, very important that you use kind words and be compassionate and very understanding with yourself. Don't cuss at yourself, be hateful towards yourself, because those are the types of things that you do not need. You don't want to be like that to yourself. Be kind and compassionate. Give yourself grace, and things like that too. And so, really paying attention to all of that and stuff like that, and kind of, figuring out your healing, your transformation, and things like that too. And so that's what it's all about. It's what it's all about. So, any questions, any concerns, anything like that? So next week, we will have a new, I think next week it's going to end up being, this is something that I think really needs to be shared. And I think next week's topic is going to be sports and childhood development, and how sports, childhood development, and how it shapes the nervous system, especially coming from coaches that are negative and are manipulating, coaches that are manipulative and, just negative all around. And so I want you to see kind of how those types of things can shape our childhood development, because we're still developing when we're in sports, and how those things can shape how fear is a motivator, and that's not what we want. And so next week we will dive into that, into sports and childhood development, when you're coached by somebody negative, and look at when you're coached by somebody negative, not just negative, but when you're coached by somebody negative and somebody positive, when they use a lot of positive reinforcements and not negative reinforcements, when they come at you in a positive demeanor versus a negative demeanor. And I really want to showcase both of those to you, and kind of show you that these are things to watch out for through a trauma-informed lens, and hopefully you will be that advocate for a student or for a child, if you're out somewhere and things like that, that you will really be that voice for that child and really start, being able to see just sometimes how evil the world truly is. It is. And so I'm going to go in and get some rest and lay down. I'm proud of myself. I made it this far. And I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And I say it week after, or I forget to say it week after week, but if you would please like, subscribe, and share, share out to all your social medias. You can always go back into the podcast, Healedish, click on the podcast and click share. And you should be able to share the link, go back into all your socials and just paste the link. I would really appreciate it because you know what? There's a lot of people out there that have not found their voice, and we are the voice for the voiceless. And until we continue, I will never stop, never stop fighting and never stop doing this, because for me, it's just, week after week, there's people out there that see these podcasts and it's about bringing hope and bringing healing and transformation to them. And so unfortunately, a lot of them are still living in the darkness and it's just so heartbreaking because that's where I lived. And so through doing this, I want to be able to bring empowerment and inspiration to them and let them know, you know what, we are your voice. We hear you, we understand you, and be able to offer that hope and inspiration and be their voice, because one day they're going to be the voice for somebody else. And so, sharing it, I would really appreciate it. And so hope each and every one of you have a good night. Have a blessed week. Thank you, Michael. I hope I feel better too. I really appreciate that. Dave, I appreciate you. I hope you have a good night. Sly, I hope you have a good night and a good week as well. Each and every one of you. Heather, I'm always here for you. You know that. If you need me, let me know. Scott, I don't know where you ran away to. If you're still on here, great. If not, I understand too, but I will say good night to you. So good night to all of you. Good night to all of my new viewers. Good night to each and every one of you, and just keep moving forward and never take a step backwards. If you do, that's okay. Just get back up and continue to keep moving forward. And one of the things I want to leave you with is this: is one of my favorite mottos, and now it just like literally went out the window. Don't look back, keep jogging. And so really quick, I remember wearing that shirt as a little girl, and I never knew exactly what it meant until I got older. And so don't look back, keep jogging. Don't ever look back. Just keep moving forward, slowly, 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 and move forward. And even if you fall down and you stumble, get back up and keep moving. And I love you all. Good night, and I will see you next week.